Is this thing on? Welcome back to Big Mouth and fancy seeing you here in Jew. Are very welcome, my friends, and especially my enemies. Come in, sit down, take a pew, and welcome to Friday's edition of the dceu Daily. And oh boy, and oh girl, and oh woman, and oh man, have I got a massive show for you today. Not only am I about to break a massive Wonder Woman 1984 rumour, I'm about to play you an interview as well of Jared Leto defending the dceu thus far, and it's a beautiful moment, and an interview with Peter Safran talking about Aquaman. And basically in this interview, it's not just Peter Safran, it's actually the writer of Shazam as well. So that's very exciting. We've got a big show for you today. So let's get it started. Yes, for weeks now, I've been talking with some people about a massive Wonder Woman 1984 rumour. And that is that Wonder Woman 1984 isn't actually set on Earth 1. Let's call the Man of Steel and BVS universe, right, in the Wonder Woman 1 universe, Earth 1. Because Wonder Woman 1984, and this is the rumour, is apparently going to be set on Earth 2. This would explain Steve Trevor's return, wouldn't it? This would explain so much. This would explain Grace Randolph's, love her to bits, of course, although she's blocked me on Twitter. Hey, I'm still going to watch your videos, Grace, but you blocked me anyway. Anyway, she was talking about a Flashpoint situation. So the rumour actually is that Wonder Woman 1984 is actually set in Earth 2. Now, how is this going to work? Oh, well, this could have something to do with Maxwell Lord. Maybe Maxwell Lord has found a way to experiment on the multiverse. Now, don't forget, the multiverse has never been discussed in the dceu before. Now, there were rumours that that was going to be kind of explored within the Snyder Cut of the Justice League. But we don't know that thus far until we get that film, and I hope that we do. There's lots of great rumours out there. But yes, so my sources have been telling me not only is Wonder Woman 1984 set in Earth 2, but basically Maxwell Lord is kind of messing around with the multiverse. So very interesting development. So what do I think about this? Well, I think it's absolutely awesome. And we've already been told that Wonder Woman 1984 isn't actually a sequel to the first Wonder Woman. So this, again, will fit into place with what my sources are actually telling me. Now, remember, take this with a pinch of salt. It is a rumour. There's no clarification if this is a fact. You know what it's like with spoilers. These studios release very little. We haven't even seen a trailer. We saw a few bits and pieces from a convention earlier. And we saw a picture from Patty Jenkins the other day, but it does look like that this rumour is probably more than a rumour, and in fact, that Wonder Woman 1984 is set on Earth 2. I mean, how awesome is that? So let's see how that plays out. And does that mean that the dceu from Wonder Woman 1984 onwards will actually be kind of set in Earth 2, or would it kind of jump from Earth 2 to Earth 1? Very interesting, and I can't wait to find out about this film. I'm so pumped for this film. And don't forget, Zach and Deb are actually producers on this film too. So very epic, very excited, and I can't wait. Now, let's listen to this interview with Jared Leto. It's about a minute long, so open your ears and take a listen to this.
Why hasn't the DC world hit as much as the Disney Marvel world?
Oh, I think it has.
Yeah.
Just ask Jason Momoa.
That's true.
I mean, I think Wonder Woman was one of the more exciting things ever to happen. Mm-hmm. You know, it was phenomenal. It's a beautiful performance, and I think the DC world's been pretty great, you know, for a long time. Mm-hmm. You can't win every single time.
Yeah.
But no, I think they're doing just fine. And people loved Shazam. I haven't seen it yet.
I haven't seen it yet either. Yeah.
But I mean, people really loved that film. And, you know, I mean, sometimes who's perfect? I'm not.
I found your Joker pretty perfect. You know I was a fan of that Joker.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. And, I mean, I loved doing it. And, you know, we'll see what happens in the future. But I think DC's, I think they're doing okay, man.
Why hasn't the DC world...
Wow, 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 wow. Why hasn't the DC world kicked off like the MCU, like Disney has? I think it has. I just asked Jason Momoa. Wonder Woman was a brilliant film. It was a beautiful performance. You can't win them all. I'm not perfect. Nothing's perfect. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Listen, I have loved Jared Leto ever since. A little film he did called Mr. Nobody. Go and see it. It's an absolute nut. It will break your mind. It's brilliant. That's how I first discovered him. So I was so excited when he was going to play the Joker. But basically, Sujihara messed with that film like he did all the others. So much of that Joker was cut out. But he sounds like he's not against playing the Joker again. So fingers crossed. But brilliant. You know, if someone's defending the DCEU and the DC movies like that, that means he's still involved. He wants to be involved. These are great noises by Jared Leto. And I'm so excited. I only just saw this video. So it wasn't going to be a part of today's DCEU, actually. But how excited. Now, when I come back, because I've got to pause it to find it, I will read you an interview with Peter Safran and the writer of Shazam. I'll be right back. Welcome back. Yes, I found the interview and I'm very excited to read it to you. This is from Joe Blow Movie Network. I love these guys. I think they do a really great job. And this is from this article is actually from Paul Shirley, a guy I follow on Twitter. He's actually a really good guy. I think I kind of upset him because I was going off on one about the MCU. But I do like him. I hope he never blocks me. But me being me, I do upset people. And that's why I'm called Big Mouth. Anyway, Peter Safran and Henry Gayden, who wrote Shazam, by the way, talk Shazam, Black Adam, and the future of the DCEU. This is a great article. I've already read it, but we're going to read it out together again. A few weeks ago, I had the chance to talk to producer Peter Safran as well as screenwriter Henry Gayden for Shazam. However, due to our more spoilery discussions, we held off on sharing for a bit. Thank you, Paul. At least long enough for folks to see the film, which is important given the things they were able to keep under wraps, minus some Funko leaks, of course. But we didn't just talk Shazam, we also talked the future of the DCEU, Black Adam, Aquaman 2 and more. You can also check out some clips with Safran talking about James Gunn on the Suicide Squad here, but for everything else, jump below. But he advised if you still haven't seen Shazam, then you may want to avoid some of the below spoiler warning. So, right, let's have a look. So here's this is with Henry Gayden. Was there any directive terms of what they wanted? Gayden, I think they wanted we had a script that Dan had written, and it was a good adaptation of Jeff Johns' great New 52 line. And I think they just really wanted to find a way. I think whatever I brought to the process was a way to write kids and how they talk naturally and a little bit of heart. And I never honestly heard of Shazam or read any of the comics, but I immediately just sort of delved in and it just felt genetically created for me to connect with. I really connected with it right away. Question, how much of the movie retains what you originally approached in the script? Were there any big changes throughout the production? Gayden, well, I was with the movie for 3+ years. That's interesting. Through pre-production and stuff like that. So nothing surprised me because I was there. If something wasn't working, we had to fix it. So I fixed it. When I pitched on it, it was still with Dwayne Johnson and Black Adam. Ah, yes, originally Black Adam was going to be in it, wasn't he? So the first year or so it was that. A lot of what I wanted to do was with the kids and Freddie being a fan of the superhero world and all of that was there. But all the Sivana stuff wasn't there yet because it was Black Adam at the time. Very interesting that they decided to go with Sivana instead of Black Adam. But I think that's probably The Rock's availability, although they don't say that. Note, Black Adam has since been taken over by screenwriter Adam Sitskill for his solo effort. Right, question. Were you a fan of the DCEU movies coming into this, or was that something you had to catch up on. He's very clever how he answers this, actually. I missed Man of Steel, and then BVS came out when I was writing on it. So I started to watch them as they came out. I'd always been a fan of the DC movies, including the Batman films in many iterations, and then also the Superman films in their first iteration. Honestly, the only one I missed when I started was Man of Steel, and I watched it right away. Good man, how can you not watch Man of Steel? Come on, you know, one of the greatest movies, eh, guys? Come on, back me up here. There's been obvious tonal shift in the DC universe with WB. Yep. Was there any guidance to lighten things up, or was that a natural process with the character? Gaydon. Yeah, I mean, that's just inherent with the property. I think to do anything otherwise would be a mistake. And no, I never felt any pressure at all. I was always kind of here's the property we have, let's just squeeze as much emotion and humour and love out of this thing as possible. It was always us making the same movie from the jump. Question. One thing about the film I loved was that it was really clever. There's a lot of little bits such as the Shazam and Sivana speech bit. Was that your doing or something, that or that existed before? Just to fill in the blanks there, basically, when they're fighting at the end and they're up in the clouds, basically there's too much noise. And so Sivana's talking, so Shazam doesn't hear any of it. If you've seen the film, it's hilarious. Gaydon, that was during post. It was during reshoots. David Sandberg sent me some previs, and he was like, okay, in the final battle, we have Sivana and Shazam in the air, and you need to write dialogue for that. And so they had it all laid out, all staged, and they sent me this video, and it just said dialogue here, and it showed the shots. And someone put wind in, and I was like, oh my God, there's all this wind. Like, if someone hadn't put that wind title in, it never would have been born. But I just heard this wind, and I was like, oh my God, they can't hear each other, of course. So then I just wrote this big barrack speech from Sivana that then you cut to Shazam, and he can't hear. It was great, and they shot it. Then in editing, Sandberg added one or two more cutbacks to make it even funnier, and it was just beautiful, a beautiful part with everyone contributing it and building to make what is probably one of the best jokes in the movie, if not the best one. That's my thing. Right, sorry about that. So yeah, so that's that part of it anyway. You know me and my background. Anyway, so where are we now? At the end, there's a significant moment when all the kids are granted the same powers as Shazam. I'm curious if this was always the intent, and was it something you focused on when building the kids early on in the film? You know, I would not say it was the priority note card that I put over my computer every day. And yet, when you watch the movie, it crescendos in such an effective and wonderful way. We knew starting from Sivana coming on board as the main villain, we knew we were going to do that because we had room to do that. And that became very exciting. But we sort of had built the characters already, and we had to further define them even more and had to give them a little more so that when we meet Darla, and she's super fast, you get that this is the younger Darla. It was not a happy accident. It was very deliberate. What we were doing, and yet it just kind of came together very organically through the writing and casting of those great actors. And suddenly you have a foster home with all these people that we love. Pretty awesome, right? Question. Where would you like Shazam next? Gaydon, that's really a good question because a lot of his personal story is really tied up at the end of this film. What excites me the most is seeing that family as they are at the end of that movie with their new powers and how they continue together. That is the most exciting to me. I don't have a specific. Gaydon's next script, There's Someone Inside You House, an American graffiti slasher film being directed by Patrick Price, is in production. Right, we don't want to know about that. Right, this is an interview with producer Peter Safran, who's co-running the DCEU now with Walter Hamada, just in case you didn't know that, even though I go on about it every video. What is it about horror directors that make them a great fit for superhero movies? That's actually a great question. I think that junior directors are really given their due in terms of their real filmmaking skills. I don't think people quite recognise how hard it is to make a great horror movie. What works so well for horror, particularly for James Wan and David Sandberg, is having the ability to craft both great scare sequences but also add levity and humour where it's needed. To let the audience off the hook of a minute before you ratchet up the tension again, there's a real skills that go into making a great, satisfying, audience-pleasing horror movie. And I think that those skills translate very well to the world of superheroes, because you're doing a lot of the same things. It's consummate filmmaking, and these guys have the skills to do that. Even though these movies are lighter than the genre movies they've been doing, they have real tension and real stakes, that's true. And the jeopardy, the scares, for example, with Aquaman, it's the trench sequence. For Shazam, it's the scenes. Those sequences are great, and they're great juxtaposition. Did I read that? For the lightness that occurs, either before or after. Shazam absolutely lives and breathes in the broader DC universe, with references to Batman, Superman, Aquaman, etc. But it never feels shoehorned in. Is finding a more natural approach to connect these films going forward rather than more blatant ones. Right, this is an interesting reply, so listen up everyone. Listen, I can't tell you exactly what Warner Brothers and DC have in mind for their future slate, but I know that the films I'm working on, there's no pressure to shoehorn in a relationship. If it doesn't exist organically, Aquaman very much lived in its own world with very little reference to the broader DC universe. Shazam clearly does, as he lives in a world where the superheroes are very real. So it would be natural for Freddie Freeman to be a superhero aficionado and reference them. Certainly, in my conversations with Walter Hamada, that is the goal going forward, just making great individual movies. And if they tie in organically, great. And if they don't, that's also great. I agree with that. You know, yes, the MCU have found fantastic success with doing this TV show concept thing, but I don't think copying them's going to work, and it hasn't worked in terms of how they've tried to execute it. So, you know, if it works, do it. I think it's going to be, the connectivity will be there, but not in every film. But there'll always be some kind of name drop, even if there's not big connectivity within the movies. So anyway, Grazer and Levi seem like the perfect match in the film. Was it that was from early on in casting, or was there a lot of trying people out for the right fit? Now, this is a really interesting answer because I didn't know this piece of info. Dylan Grazer was the first person we cast in the movie. Wow. I'm not surprised. He's an automatic choice. We knew the moment we read the Freddy role that it had to be Jack Dylan Grazer. He just had done it for New Lines, so they were very familiar with him. So we met him early. He was the first guy cast, and we had all potential Shazams read opposite him because we knew that that relationship was the key crux to the film. And once he and Zach got together, it was so undeniable from the table read. Their connections was instantaneous. Right, I can't read, can I? They're both hilarious. They're both equally quick-witted. And constantly, we would just let the camera roll during their sequences just to see what they would give us beyond the page. And it was always delightful. Why was Jeff Johns' New 52 run the right source material to kick off Shazam? In fact, they've adapted or half-adapted a lot of New 52 stuff from Jeff Johns in the DCEU already, as we already know. Not full adaptations, but taking ideas out. So it's obvious that's where we're going. We felt that Jeff Johns had really laid out a great storyline with Billy in particular. The Foster family there have been a lot of different origin stories to who Billy was over the years, since 1940. And we felt this was the cleanest and most organic and really a smart way to go. Billy searching for his mother, put into a family he didn't want to be a part of, and ultimately at the end discovering that family is really about bond and not blood. It just felt like a very good touchstone. I get emotional reading that kind of stuff, you know. Obviously, we move away from it in many regards, particularly with Savannah, but we felt that it was a really good core baseline to build from, and we're all very happy that we did so. As someone helping to shape the future of the DC Universe, what would you say the future holds for these films? I think this is important. I think the future is extremely bright for the DC world in general. Have you noticed both the interviewer talking to Jared Leto and Jared Leto himself are now calling it DC World? Very interesting. I kind of like that. I think the future is extremely bright for the DC world in general. I loved Wonder Woman. I love Aquaman. I think Shazam is great. You've got Birds of Prey, the second Wonder Woman, Batman. So they're talking about Batman. Definitely going to happen. And Suicide Squad. The Joker, which was such a great script, great star, great director. Wow, I can't wait for you guys to see the Joker movie. I've seen a test screening. I've still got to do a video about that anyway. great star, great director. I think that they really have their mojo back and are heading in the right direction. And the philosophy is develop great scripts with great filmmakers and go make great individual movies. And I'm happy with that, you know, without worrying about having to tie all these things together in some larger manner. So I think the future of DC is really bright. Although he's not featured in the film, it feels like Black Adam would be the most obvious choice to face off with Shazam in a sequel. Is there any thoughts to how or if he could play a part in Shazam's next chapter? You know, my instinct, and this is really just instinct at this point, is that until he's done a standalone movie, we won't bring Shazam and Black Adam together. That's my instinct. So right now, as I sit here, I suspect there will be a standalone Black Adam movie, so that's happening basically, and then at some point he and Shazam will face off. Can't wait. Really exciting. Question. The Aquaman sequel has been dated for December 16, 2022, which feels like a long time away. It's 3 years. It's not that bad. Can you talk about the reasons for that? Can I just tell you, when we were kids, we would have 3-year breaks. The Star Wars movies had 3-year breaks. The prequels had 3-year breaks. It's not that bad. We're just being spoiled these days. Saffron. Part of the reason is it takes... Hang on. Yeah, start again. Part of the reason is it takes a while to get a great screenplay, you know, something you're really happy with. That's the first step. The second step is that making a movie of this scale and size just takes a while. It takes a long time to prep, to shoot, and to post, and we want to make sure that we give ourselves enough time, that we're not chasing a release date, that we're not making a movie for a release date. Well done. This new attitude is brilliant. But instead of just making the best possible movie and then releasing it in the best possible manner. So there's no deliberate desire to do it later than it should be, but it's about doing it right and not doing it fast. Great answer. Absolutely vital. We must stop comparing ourselves with the MCU. They're doing great, there's no denying that, but the DCEU and the DC world, as they're calling it now, it's very, very important that they make the best possible film and don't feel rushed. You know, we saw the problems with Justice League. We don't want to go down that avenue again, do we? Anyway, are there any character or comics that you'd like to bring to the big screen that haven't been realised yet? Sure, absolutely. I probably shouldn't mention them because it would seem like I'm asking DC to hand them over to me. They have such a great diverse group of characters, both well-known and lesser-known, in their library, and I think they are tremendous storylines to be told with so many of them. Obviously, one of those ones that I want most was Suicide Squad, and I brought James Gunn into that mix. So it's Saffron who brought James Gunn in. Where's my background? Right, here we are. And I brought James Gunn into that mix. And obviously, we're making that in the fall. So I think I will target and cherry pick those ones that I think are really special and hopefully find a way to work with Warner Brothers and DC on them. And that, my friends, is a wonderful interview because there, you know, you don't have to run away and read stupid rumours with people with agendas or watch stupid YouTube videos. I'm not talking about myself, obviously, trying to say Shazam was a failure and crap like this, right? You got it from the horse's mouth. They will have connectivity if it's right for the film. The most important film is every individual movie and that they don't rush for a release date. They don't release for a release date. You know, great answers. I believe him. I trust Saffron. I've been following him for a while. Not physically, of course, but I know about him and, you know, Walter Hamada at New Line Cinema. These are people who make movies, stories, you know, character-developed stories. These are not people who are just going to throw content out there to try and catch up with Disney. I believe we're on the right track, everyone. We need to be patient. It is baby steps, as I said before, but the DCEU is here to stay, or should I say the DC world. I like that. I really do like that. I think we're always going to call it the DCEU, but DC world is great as well. That interview and what Jared Leto had to say is really, really exciting. Please comment down below. What do you think about the Wonder Woman 1984 rumour? What do you think about what Jared Leto had to say? And what do you think about that wonderful interview between the writer of Shazam and Peter Safran, one of the guys running the DC world now, as they're calling it? I'm pumped. I'm excited. I hope you are as well. I'll see you next time on the DCEU Daily.